Welcome to episode 2 of my series where we celebrate all things rural. Today I'm in Wales on the beautiful River Usk to meet Tiggy Pettifer, who is the fundraising officer for the Atlantic Salmon Trust, where we're going to talk all things salmon. Come look at this. I think she quite likes fish.
Let's go fishing, honey.
Okay, so am I putting these things on?
Yeah, you put your woolly socks on.
Right.
Definitely, otherwise you'll freeze.
Okay. And what are these called?
Those are thigh waders. And I've got my chest waders. The great joy of chest waders is when it's pouring with rain and you're having your rest,
Yeah.
you can sit on the riverbank without getting wet. Whereas your thigh waders...
Oh, are you going to get wet bottom?
Yeah, you're going to get very wet bottom.
Oh.
Sorry, love. Really quite light, really quite easy.
Yeah.
And you just slip it over your neck and it will save your life if you're in a big river.
Perfect.
All right?
Yep.
To err on the side of caution,
Yeah.
life jacket.
Okay. Life jacket.
Wading stick.
Ooh.
You can hold mine for a minute while I get our net.
Thank you very
It's
much.
a third leg.
Okay.
And it's just brilliant because you need to have studs on the bottom of your waders so you don't slip around. They haven't got them.
Ah.
Mine do because I have separate boots, but those guys don't have any studs.
Okay, so
the
this
great
is...
joy of it is you just have your lanyard, you sling it over your shoulder, and it's just always there, so you've got an extra leg. Those are dry flies for in the summer, when the flies are on the surface.
Right.
And that is, there's a little gold head job for you. Do you see a little beady number? So he's heavy, so he's going to go to the bottom.
Oh, okay, so he sinks a bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got, there's a little yellow...
And you're going to tie this on the end of our fishing line?
Yes.
Right.
On the end of the cast.
Oh, sorry, cast.
Or the leader, as some people, I'm old school, I call it a cast.
Okay.
So that, for example, is a little yellow Sally. So in the next, further on, April, May, we got yellow flies flying around.
Okay.
And they're nicknamed as yellow Sallies. See that white water?
Yeah.
That's called a riffle.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So that is the top of a pool. So you've got the neck, mid through, tail end.
Right.
And when you get sent off to a bit and you go, where am I meant to go? Look for the white water
Okay.
because that's really shallow. That's why you've got
And
white
that's, sorry,
water.
but that's where you start.
You're going to start at the bottom of the white waters
Okay.
because it's too shallow normally. And then you can see you've got a really nice run. Do you see the water, the channel
Yes,
down
straight
the other
down
side?
the other side, yep.
That's coming down. That's where you're going
Okay.
to start at the top of that and you're going to work your way down the pool.
Right.
If we were dry flying in July in a glorious evening at 9 o'clock at night, I'd start here and work my way up. And I'll explain that to you in a minute. But we are wet flying, which means the fly is under the surface.
Not sitting on the top.
That's a dry fly.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
Right.
Let's get this bad boy out.
Everything's straight. Now pull off a bit.
Can they hear us? Can they see us?
No, they can't hear us here because that's quite quick.
I
Right.
feel like I need to whisper.
No, you're safe, darling.
Okay,
You're safe.
Okay.
Draw it around. No.
Oh.
Now, do you see what happens?
Sorry.
Right, please don't take me out. Okay. Right, just follow it round.
Okay.
Now, what did I say? You
Sorry.
got to draw the tip round slowly.
Slowly. Okay,
Right,
sorry.
now pick it up. One. What?
I got a fish! I got a fish!
No, good God, live woman. You got the bottom bar. Right, wait, now listen, concentrate, woman. Now,
I genuinely thought I caught a fish.
I know you did.
So is this a problem because we've got this sinking fly?
Yes, it's heavy. And
Okay.
It's coming round into
So
a
am I
shallow bit.
leaving it too long?
No, it's fine.
Oh my God, Tiggs is pudding! It is actually pudding.
Yeah, that was probably a little right. That was
It's pudding! It's pudding!
slowly.
Fred!
Reel, Di, reel. Oh no.
Oh no.
Is he that reel, Di, reel? I think he's gone. He's gone. Stop.
Oh my!
Yep,
Did we
he's
just
gone.
catch a fish?
Yeah, we did.
I cannot believe I just caught a fish.
Right.
That's insane.
Right, just reel in
Okay,
a bit more.
so that's the feeling that people talk about.
But do you see how shallow it was? Do you see how close it was?
Oh my
We
gosh!
don't
I
have to be
know. I
putting
didn't
your
see
fly
anything.
in
I
there.
didn't
but
see
do-
anything. I panicked.
No, but do you see how short our line is?
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
This is why you don't need to go mad.
Okay.
Right, so rod tip down, draw it round to here.
Hand a little higher up. There you go. Right, one
Okay.
finger.
Yeah.
So you're going to go circle all the way around. Yeah? Peel.
Whoa, that feels really horrible.
No, it's just got to get used to it. Okay, so we'll try that again. Rod tip at the water.
Yeah.
Round we go. No, wait, stop. Stop. Right, you ready?
Yeah, but I don't even know what we're doing.
You're doing a circle. So do a big circle with your rod. Bring it round. You got to bring it. No. Right. Better. We're just rushing it a little bit, but much better. Best one I've seen all day, actually. So we're getting there.
Woo!
Don't feel that you have to stand in the river for 6 hours and just keep flogging. Have a rest. Read your book. Watch the kingfisher, watch the otters. You know, in Scotland you'll so often see the osprey fishing on certain rivers. Sit on the riverbank and enjoy being here.
I think the problem is these days that everyone's in a rush. You know, everyone's rushing from A to B or things to do, and no one takes the time just to go, ugh, you know, and sit on a riverbank.
It's part of fishing.
I know, it's so important, isn't it?
And those kipes are for the cock salmon to rip the gonads off the other cock salmon.
Hang on, we need to film this.
That's the basically on them. Well, that's where they are. And then they put their cape and rip the insides of the other males out.
Are you joking?
No, that's what they're fighting for, their sexy chicks.
That's the most brutal thing I've ever heard.
It is. I mean, you'll see some cock salmon have got the whole of their gills and everything all ripped off and they're swimming around. Then they die, obviously. But an Atlantic salmon can go back to sea after spawning. Whereas in America, all the Pacific salmon die. You know, you've seen in David Attenborough's programmes, all those salmon that are red,
Jump up, yeah.
the sockeye,
Yeah.
they all die. Hence, that incredible biodiversity with the bears and the eagles and everybody, because the salmon have died, and that's why you have these amazing forests either side. 500 metres later it's just tundra, but where all those great big trees are and all the bushes and the bees and the bugs, that is all due to salmon.
That's incredible.
And what nobody realises is that if you don't have a salmon in your river, your whole ecosystem is collapsing. They are your canaries of your river.
So this morning you posted some pretty damning information about our government, how they are supporting the farming salmon industry. How does that make you feel?
Wrong subject, Bara, to get me on. It's just so frustrating. I mean, you think that Maui, who are one of the biggest salmon suppliers around the world, were given £7 million in subsidies. That's 5 times more what they paid in tax. And they've been given these money they're producing about 65,000 tonnes of smoked salmon at the moment, and they've been given 2 million extra for their equipment to produce 95,000 tonnes of salmon. And it's just heartbreaking when you think that America, Washington State, have banned salmon farming outright now in all their sea lochs.
Have they?
Because it's so damaging. And what upsets me so much is that everybody doesn't know. It's so kept under the radar.
Yeah.
Because they are David and Goliath. You look at all your food, you think of your farm, what you produce at home, you have a red tractor sign on it. Don't believe it. It's like the Aquaculture Stewardship Council. They have signs on all this packaging and they say it's Scottish salmon. It's not Scottish salmon, it's Norwegian fish brought to the United Kingdom to put into our sea lochs, where they then create a complete ecological desert. Because the chemicals that they use to have the sea lice destroyed. Sea lice is a parasite that is naturally on wild salmon. If I caught a salmon in Iceland with sea lice on it, you're really thrilled.
Okay.
Because it means it has come straight out of the sea. And the minute those salmon reach the river, those sea lice drop off because they can't survive in fresh water. But what happens is when you have 50,000 salmon in one net pen, the sea lice multiply and multiply and multiply. And so what happens is you end up with a fish like this that's eaten from the outside in, and they get deformed, and then they get viruses, which nobody knows about, and they're spraying these chemicals saying, oh, it's organic salmon from Scotland. Well, it's not. They're bringing in Norwegian eggs and bring them on and then sell them. And then you end up like last year when Maui had, I mean, they're the worst track record of everybody. They had over 1 million salmon die last year before they'd even made the production line. But you think from the top of Sutherland, the Laxford, all the way down to Morecambe Bay, basically, is one trail of fish farms. So they're producing all the sea lice. The baby smolties come out at sea. They can only cope with their bodies with 2 sea lice on. And they've proven through the scientific work that the Atlantic Salmon Trust is doing, these smolties are covered in 15 to 30 lice. And he's only that size. So they can't survive, and we wonder why our salmon are declining. And we're on catch and release to try and help our numbers. And then you've got escapees from these fish farms. Last year on the Argyll coast, Argyll and Bute, they had an escapee of 50,000 salmon, farmed salmon. And they still have natural instincts that our wild salmon have. So of course they run for a river. So then they integrate with the wild salmon and they break down all the genetics. So you end up with a very, very weakened gene. And they are so susceptible to temperature change, to food. And we don't know what's going on out at sea, but we can tell everybody what's happening in our rivers. So you've got all these escapee salmon. Where Fred was fishing in Iceland, they employed Norwegian divers to come and kill, spear gun, all the farmed salmon that were entering their pristine crystal waters. I mean, it is an environmental disaster of mega proportions, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I know I love my salmon,
Yeah.
but it is really critical now.
So, Tiggy, what actions are the Atlantic Salmon Trust taking into protecting the wild salmon, and what can we, as the public, do to help?
Okay, first of all, the Atlantic Salmon Trust are the only scientific research charity in the United Kingdom. So, for salmon.
Okay.
So we do scientific research to work out what's in the water that's going wrong. As I said to you earlier, cold, clean water is what salmon need. So we're working with farmers and river trusts to put in leaky dams and all the way up the side of hills to stop the topsoil running off, because all the rocks are covered in silt. So I said to you, there's no insects underneath.
Yeah.
We need to send our smolts out like Mike Tyson. They need to be thick, chunky, they're only this, but they need to be really well fed. And if you get these extremes throughout the year,
They won't be.
they won't have enough food, they get overheated, they're incredibly susceptible to temperature. So we're working with everybody to restore the riverbanks, plant more trees so that the water is covered, so that the temperature keeps cooler, try and get under control the fish-eating birds like the cormorants and mergansers, because they're out of control and they're protected.
Okay.
So there's so much to do, but the restoration and the river connections is really essential. We do a lot of tracking and telemetry, is when you put a little bleeper inside a smolt's tummy and you see how long it takes to get down the river.
Okay.
And then hopefully through all this science, we can turn around to people and say, if you do X, Y or Z, then you will help our salmon.
Okay, so have you got a funding page? Can we help support? Is there a website that we can go to?
There absolutely is, the AtlanticSalmonTrust.org. You as a volunteer could help on the rivers.
Amazing.
I think of the Tyne, they have an enormous Rivers Trust volunteer section, putting riverbanks back, putting woody structures in for the babies to be able to hide under. As you've seen here, our riverbanks are collapsing all the time, and you don't want that silt and the nitrogens and the phosphates
going into the
coming into the river, because that creates algae. You want to keep the livestock out of the river. You think of all the chicken farms that you've probably heard about on the news, on the Wye.
Yeah.
One of our greatest salmon rivers in the country, with huge fish, 40 pounders, was historically known. They're disappearing. But the water companies are dumping millions of gallons of sewage into the river every single year, and that has to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just wrong.
Yeah.
Humans need cold, clean water.
Let alone fish.
Sheep need it. Cows need it.
Yeah.
Every creature needs cold, clean water.
Yeah.
But as I said earlier, if you don't have salmon in your river, your whole biodiversity and the ecosystem will crash.
So if we, as the public, you're saying don't eat the salmon in the supermarket.
Yeah.
What is the alternative? What if we wanted to eat salmon, what should we eat?
You don't.
At all?
Nope.
Really?
No more salmon. Because you'll see in the supermarkets wild sockeye salmon.
Yeah.
Well, now Mr. Trump's in, the west coast of America are even more trouble, because all their funding for all the conservation work that they've been done has been halted. And having gone through Biden and Obama, who stopped two of the biggest mining leases in a place called Bristol Bay, which still is the largest stronghold of salmon in the world. Over 60 million salmon run through Bristol Bay, and Trump has just given them permission to bring those mining leases back in, which is just beyond catastrophic. So my alternative to everybody, which isn't ideal, but at least it doesn't affect the entire ecosystem, and that is trout. But again, you have to look at the labels, because some of the trout is raised in sea lochs in the same way as the salmon is. Di, I just want to show you your great Aunt Tizer's fishing book from, I mean, it is remarkable, this book. It's from 1919, sorry.
Wow.
She was called Dulcie Bailey, and I just wanted to show you a page here from, I think it's 1932, just before the war. Yes, 1932. This was on the Wye, and on April the 16th, just one day, she had a 22, 20 and a half, 16, 20, 21, 24 and 37 pound salmon.
What?
That's one day. And then the following day, on the 18th, she caught an 18 pounder. And then on the 19th, she had a 19, 16, 19, 26 pound salmon. And that was all on the Wye.
That is incredible.
And in those days, of course, everything got bumped on its head. Rather like when I had my bonanza on the Spey in 1987. And we had 110 fish for the week, and I had 14 to my own rod in 3 days, of which 2 were 21 pounds.
And you just don't get that anymore, do you?
No.
From all the problems that we've been discussing.
And I just wanted to show you the why bit, because I know I'll talk to you more about the chicken pollution and stuff, but this river was something else.
She'd be so proud of what you're doing now for the salmon. It's amazing.
The boys keep saying to me the only reason I'm doing this is because I killed so many salmon in my younger day. I mean, I am 60 on April the 1st, and I will never ever catch Aunt Tiza's record, because looking at this, in 1953, she had 1,079 fish to her own rod.
That is remarkable, isn't it?
It really is.